Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about 223 Wylde. What is it? How accurate is it? Basically 223 is a barrel chambering for 223 and 5.56 ammunition. So it's not a different type of ammunition, it is just a different type of barrel chambering. So over here I've got take a closer look at that. All right, so you can see where it says 223 Wylde, 1-7 twist, stainless steel. I got this complete upper from Palmetto for about $250. I've been working with it now for a couple of days. Before we get into what 223 Wylde is, let's first talk about 223 and 5.56. Okay, so when you ask people what's the difference between 223 and 5.56, they will usually tell you that there's a difference in pressure, that the 5.56 pressure is higher. However, okay, what I have found out through my research is that they use a different method of pressure testing the 5.56 versus the 223, right? When you use the same exact method to pressure test both of these, they both pressure the same, okay? So if you use between these two methods, right? If you use, let's say, the one that's normally used on 223, if you also use it on the 5.56, they come out the same. Likewise, if you use the pressure method for 5.56, also same exact method on 223, that also comes out the same. Okay, so the pressure difference is not different. Okay, now traditionally, it was known that you could shoot a 223 in the 5.56 barrel, but not in reverse. You know what? I would just follow the manufacturer's guidelines on that and not second guess them. But that's what I have found through my research, that these two actually pressure the same when you use the same method to pressure test them. Now, so let's accept for a moment that there's no difference between 223 and 5.56. There is a difference in the barrel chambers. Okay, the 223 barrel chamber is a little bit tighter, and the reason for that is the 5.56 was developed as a military round, and the military shoots other things besides full metal jacket, right? Other things besides a lead bullet wrapped in copper. They also shoot incendiary rounds. I believe at various points they were experimenting with even explosive bullet heads. I don't know how successful that was. Tracer rounds. Okay, so if you're going to create an incendiary round or a tracer round, you have to basically hollow out the inside of the bullet to hold that chemical to produce that flame, right, or that flare. So when you do that, right, what happens is, if you want to maintain the same weight of the bullet, right, the bullet is going to end up being a little bit fatter or a little bit bigger. So that's why the 5.56 barrel chamber, right, the chamber in the barrel is slightly bigger to accommodate tracers and incendiary rounds. Okay, so the difference is in the barrel chamber, not in the ammunition itself. Okay? So for that reason, people have often said that that 223 shot out of a 223 barrel is more accurate than 5.56, and and that would be the reason why, because everything is just tighter. So this guy came along by the name of Wylde. I forgot what his last name is. And he basically kind of blended the two, so that, and I'm not sure exactly what he did, but he created a 223 barrel chamber that was basically rated to also accept 5.56. Okay. Now, I don't know exactly how he did it, to what extent he changed the tolerances. Like, for example, if you were to put an incendiary round in a 223 Wylde, would they fit? Okay, so I don't know the answer to that, because I don't know, like, for example, if you were to use an incendiary round, how generous were the tolerances? I don't know the answer to that. Is it possible that there might be some 5.56 round out there that was created at some point, maybe back in the mid 1960s, that would not chamber in a 223 Wylde that's built today? Quite possibly. Because I think when this person developed the 223 Wylde, I think he anticipated that everybody would be shooting full metal jacket through it, right? Or maybe hollow points. I don't think he was anticipating that people would be shooting incendiary rounds. So I'm just putting it out there. I don't know the answer to that, but that's the difference between the 5.56 and the 223. The 5.56 barrel chamber was originally designed to also include incendiary rounds and tracers, whereas the 223 is not. So, given that this person designed the barrel chamber to be a little bit tighter, it should be a little bit more accurate. Okay, there should specifically there should be less of a jump, right? When the cartridge ignites, right, and it starts traveling, it should travel less distance before it meets the rifling, and that's one of those things that affects accuracy. Okay, if the rifling is almost like right up against the bullet head, it goes into that rifling almost immediately, and that supposedly makes it more accurate. So that's the story between behind this 223 Wylde. What it is, it's basically it's a 223 barrel chambering that's rated to be shot with commonly sold 5.56 and 223. Now, let's talk about accuracy. How much more accurate is it? Now, I only have a sample of one to talk to you guys about, right? I have lots of 5.56 rifles. I don't have any that are like solely 223. So all my AR rifles are all 5.56, and this is actually the first one that I have here that is a that is a 223 Wylde. So I don't have a huge sampling of 223 Wylde barrels to talk about, but I can tell you about my experience so far. Okay, so I have here now like I said, both of these are 18 inches. Let's put this to the side. Okay, now this one over here, like I said, this is a Palmetto 223 Wylde. This is a Ruger MPR 5.56 caliber, both 18-inch barrels. Okay, so yesterday I was shooting both of those guns, and with the Ruger MPR, which is a 5.56 chambering, my best group, and I did another video on this, was a 1/2 inch at 100 yards. That was my best group, and I hit 1 inch over here. I hit 1 inch over here, so I've got two 1-inch groups. I got a group here of about 1.5 inches. All right, and I got a 2-inch group over here, right? So that Ruger MPR with good ammunition, right? Because I shot it with both the X-Tacs and 223. So the X-Tacs up here, I got that was a 2-inch group, and the 1-inch group here. The 77 grain Sierra Match Kings do better. That gives me a 1-inch group more consistently, and it gave me that 1/2 inch group, and it's given me another occasion. It's given me 3/4 inch groups. Okay, so I've gotten plenty of 3/4 inch groups. So that's the 5.56 barrel. So we've got over here, I got the 223 Wylde. Okay, and let's take a look at here. And I shot this several times with both those ammunitions, right? So with the 77 grain, I got 1.75 inches. My best grouping was 1.25 inches. Okay, so my best grouping I was able to hit was 1.25 inches. Up here with the X-Tacs, I got 2.5 inches. So comparing best group to best group, having done this several times, with the 223 Wylde, I got 1.25 inches versus the 5.56 barrel, where I got 1/2 inch. Okay, so what this tells me is just because you get a 223 Wylde doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be shooting better than your 5.56. Now let's put that a little bit into perspective. 5.56 AR barrels have come a long way. I mean, I think like if you were to go back 10 years, from what I recall, most people were telling me that they were averaging about 3-inch groups at 100 yards from back 10-15 years. When I was shooting them 10-15 years ago, I was coming in at about 3 inches myself. Now, I don't know if that's because At the time, maybe I was using cheaper optics, or back then I was just using iron sights, mainly iron sights. So the modern day optics may be a factor in this, right? But but if you have an AR that shoots what used to be a standard, right, of 3 inches, and you pick up this 223 Wylde, yes, the 223 Wylde is going to do great, okay? However, I think that the expectations and the standards on 5.56 barrels have greatly improved over over the last 10 years, especially over the last 5 and 2 years. Like people expect, pretty much when they buy an AR today, they expect it's going to shoot 2 inches minimal. People even expect them to shoot 1 inch. Okay, so that's kind of become an expectation on 5.56 ARs. A lot of times it's a question of changing the ammunition. Now that's another point. When I was shooting the ARs 10, 15 years ago, I was not using match grade ammo. So that's also, so when I was grouping 3 and 4 inches 10, 15 years ago, I was using cheaper ammunition. So maybe that's not the case. Maybe the rifle barrels haven't improved all that much. Maybe they were always good, and I was just using cheaper optics and cheaper ammunition. I'm just sharing my experience with you guys. I'm not putting this stuff out there as like facts. This is how it is. This is how it applies to everybody. I'm just sharing my experience with you guys as a guy that shoots a lot, right? Because you see all the shells on the ground over there, all the cases. Okay, I've been shooting for a very long time on a very regular basis, right? Like almost like every day for like the last 10 years, okay? So I have that experience to draw upon. However, like I said, 10, 15 years ago, I was using cheaper ammunition. I was using cheaper optics. So that might be a contributing factor to this, okay? So like I said, I'm putting the information out there for you guys to just, take in and, digest as you like. So, as I was saying, given that in the past, the expectations of AR accuracy were lower, you pick up a 223 Wylde, and yeah, I mean, it shoots 1.5 inches, what did I say, 1.25 inches at 100 yards, big improvement. But when you have a bunch of ARs that are already shooting about 1 inch, it's like, okay, it's not doing that much better, okay? So now, like I said, I only have a sample of one, and I'm just kind of putting it out there. Now, there's really not that much of a price difference, because this 223 Wylde 18 inches cost me $350. This one over here, which is, and both, by the way, these are both from Palmetto. So this is a Palmetto, but this is a 5.56 chambering in a 16-inch barrel. And I've actually done videos on this particular one here. This one has hit 1 inch at 100 yards on a couple of occasions. Okay, so even this 16-inch 5.56 has beat the 223 Wylde by 1/4 inch. Now, I probably have shot less than 50 rounds at this point with this gun, right? Because again, I'm going slow. I'm trying to do, be as accurate as possible. I got less than 50 rounds on this, so maybe there's an issue that there's a break-in period. Maybe there's an issue of I gotta find the right ammunition, because sometimes, although I think I'm using pretty good ammunition with this 77 grain Matchkin, I did get it down to 1.25 inches, so I don't think the ammunition's that bad. It might be that, hey, maybe I wasn't shooting my best, although I did shoot these like on the same day, like almost back to back, going back and forth. And again, with the Ruger MPR, a 1/2 inch group at 100 yards versus best group there, 1.25 inches. So same ammunition on the same days, under the same weather conditions. So far, I'm getting a way better group with this, with this Ruger MPR. I'm getting a better group so far with this Palmetto with a 16-inch barrel in the 5.56 chambering. This 223 Wylde is doing pretty good, I think, at 1.25 inches. Maybe there's a break-in period, right? Maybe I just got to shoot more rounds through it. Maybe the rifling needs to settle in or something. I don't know. I mean, I'm just, maybe I just need to just shoot it a lot more to get a better sampling. So, possibly. So, just wanted to throw that out there, right? Because a lot of times, like for even myself, like I was expecting, hey, I'm picking up a 223 Wylde here. I was expecting that, if I can hit like 1 inch groups with this 16-inch barrel here, that's 5.56, I was expecting I was going to be hitting half-inch groups all day with this thing, and that's not the case. Okay, I can't do that. It's not happening. So it's just reality check. That's all. That's all I'm doing here. Again, there's a lot of factors here. The biggest factor is me. All right. Being consistent. Although, like I said, I did do lots of shots here, and I'm consistently seeing that the Ruger MPR and the Palmetto 5.56 chambering was doing better. So, but that's one factor. The me factor. The second factor is the ammunition. All right. Even with match grade ammo, listen, it's still mass produced with machines. Okay, it's not like they're hand loading this, where they are measuring every every grain that goes into each cartridge. Right, they're not hand measuring it. And I mean, I've done reloading in the past. A lot of times when I'm hand loading, right, I got my train, I'm dropping it. There's usually, a lot of times there'll be a couple of grains that stay behind, right, and I got to kind of flick it to get them off. Well, if you're doing this on an industrial level, dropping it with a machine, I have to believe that every drop, every throw is not going to be absolutely consistent. Okay, there's going to be a little bit of difference from one throw to the next as it comes out of the machine. Also, the bullets, the bullet heads themselves, right? They might be slightly off. Hand loaders that try to be like super accurate, they actually have a machine where they put the bullet without the case here. They'll put the bullet in this little spinny thing, and then and it rotates it, and there's a wheel, and they spin this to make sure that there's like no imperfections in the roundness of the bullet. Okay, even though when it goes down the barrel, I think it kind of gets reshaped a little bit. Anyway, but the point is that if a hand loader that really knows his stuff and is, because when I was hand loading, I was just I wasn't being like super precise, super accurate. But there are hand loaders out there that like measure every throw, measure the perfect roundness of every bullet. If it's not perfectly round, they discard it or put it into a different pile to be used with for different purposes. When you're loading on an industrial level, there's never going to be a 100% consistency. Okay. And that said, burning gunpowder is also a chemical reaction. So the chemical reaction is never 100% either. Going back to my high school chemistry class now, thinking back, I don't know, I guess I'm almost 40 years back. From what I remember, no chemical reactions are never 100%. So even under lab conditions, a chemical reaction or chemical burning is usually about 97% under best conditions. Now, when we say 97%, that means that you might have one that's like 97.1, another one that's 97.2, another one that's like 96.99. So chemical reactions in and of themselves are never perfect. So these are all factors, right? That's why you can never get the bullets to go in the same hole, right? Because each burn is slightly different, but even by a tiny percentage, it's slightly different. And of course, the other factor when you're shooting outdoors like this is the wind. Okay, even though there's hardly any wind today, there's still a tiny little bit of wind, and even if there's like zero wind over here, there might be some wind down there. So that's another factor that needs to be considered. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there in case you guys, for those of you guys that are not aware of what a 223 Wylde is or that it even exists, now you know, right? It's a barrel chambering that shoots 223 and 5.56, and also 22 long rifle if you've got a 22 conversion bolt. And for those of you that are aware of it but were wondering how much more accurate it is, it depends. If you've already got accurate ARs that shoot like half inch to 1 inch groups, there's no guarantee that the 223 Wylde is going to be more accurate if you already got ARs that are that accurate. However, if your ARs are like shooting 3-inch groups, yeah, that's probably going to be more accurate. Although there might be some other things to consider, like your optics. Things like, for example, is your scope or your dot secure on the rifle, or is there any movement? You know, a lot of times when I'm training people, they come to me, and I'll, you know, again, new shooters, I'll go like this, and I'll see that this thing's moving, you know, or the dot or whatever they got, you know, their iron sights, you know, whatever they got on the rifle. I'll go like that, and it's moving. So that's another thing to consider. So anyway, drop some comments below if you have any experiences with 223 Wylde. Please let me know. Let me know what your experience is as far as accuracy, so we can kind of build up a database that we can share with each other. Talk to you all soon.